If you live in a red state, do not have a baby or get sick. Trump is closing your local hospital.
Well, in Nebraska, the first rural hospital has announced its closure due to funding cut. If you did not know, Nebraska is a red state. This rural hospital cites that due to prospective loss in funding and already not good funding for their rural hospitals, this one will close. And the state of Nebraska actually predicts up to 6 rural hospitals may close.
Nebraska is probably really pissed that they voted for Trump now, huh? Because everybody that's like, no, Medicaid's not going to close clinics and Medicaid's not going to close hospitals. Ask Nebraska how one of their clinics is now being closed. Why, you might ask? Because of Medicaid cuts. Because of Medicaid cuts. And that's just the first to downfall publicly.
And it begins. A rural hospital in Nebraska closed, citing the upcoming bill that's going to cut health care for millions. And guess who won Nebraska in the 2024 election? Trump. So it's already hurting his supporters. It's like watching cows lining up to go to the slaughterhouse and them applauding it. Like, bro, make it make sense. It's crazy because, like, as long as they think it's going to hurt the others, they're okay with it. Oh, what the? Like, I'm lost for words.
Hospitals are already closing because of the big, beautiful bill. Not next year, not next month. Now, in Nebraska, a hospital already closed. In West Virginia, 7 are at risk. In Georgia, $540 million in cuts. 4 hospitals likely to shut their doors. In Oklahoma, 23 rural hospitals at risk. Now, this bill slashes $1 trillion from Medicaid. They're throwing a $50 billion rural hospital fund at it, but that's like giving somebody a Band-Aid after you cut off their arm. We're talking maternity wards closing, ERs shutting down, ambulances gone. People driving an hour or more just to get emergency services. And if that one rural hospital was the biggest employer in town, the whole town suffers. Trump said this bill was beautiful, but the people living in those communities just lost their hospital, their lifeline. And if you thought this bill was about saving money, this bill is going to add $5 to $8 trillion to the deficit over 10 years. And I'm going to tell you this right now. When Democrats next take the presidency, and it will happen, power shifts, it has my whole life and yours, this big, beautiful bill will be fully in action. And who do you think the Republicans that voted for this bill is going to blame for the effects of this bill? I think the answer is obvious, because Republicans just can't seem to find themselves doing the right thing. And that's the truth.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks again for choosing us today. Alright, Nebraska doesn't seem to be catching a breath. Well, you ask yourself why. First, it was Nebraska farmers actually going bankrupt and asking the rest of America, does anybody care about Nebraska? Now it's their hospitals and clinics shutting down due to loss in Medicaid and Medicare funding. Well, picture this. You're in rural Nebraska where you only have like one access to a good hospital, and overnight it's just gone. It vanishes. Well, this is thanks to the orange man's one big beautiful bill that is nearly slashing over $1 trillion in Medicaid, Medicare funding. Well, hospitals are sounding the alarm, clinics are shutting down, emergency rooms are just vanishing overnight, and a lot of Americans don't feel any kind of sympathy to Nebraskans. Why? Because Nebraska is a red state. Majority of Nebraskans actually voted red. They voted for the orange man. Well, a lot of people are saying you voted for this, you wanted this, you got exactly what you wanted. After voting against your best interest, there is no room to actually seek for sympathy from the rest of America. Nebraska is having the hardest FAFO of any red state, and on this video we're gonna be talking about that. I'm your presenter Joel Mugisha. If you're new, kindly consider subscribing, hit that like button. Let's keep the conversation going down below in the comments. Let's take a look. I'll be back with more.
Nebraska clinic closes. Yeah, a clinic has already closed, knowing full well of what is coming with the big bad Republican bill. When it does finally pass today, it's going to devastate these clinics across the country, and people in rural areas are going to have no access to health care. It's going to be extremely difficult as hundreds of these locations across the country close. And it's happening because Republicans voted for this. Republicans did this to Americans. So you will struggle now. Millions of you will be without any health care. Millions of you will be without health care facilities to go to. You'll have to now drive out of your way some 40, 50, 60, 70 miles or more, because these clinics are going to close because of the Medicaid payments. That's right. This is brought to you by Republicans. You have no one else to blame. Republicans are doing this, and clinics are starting to close already.
Today, a clinic in rural southwest Nebraska is announcing that they are closing their doors, and listen to what the CEO said is the reason why. Unfortunately, the current financial environment, driven by anticipated federal budget cuts to Medicaid, has made it impossible for us to continue operating all of our services, many which have faced significant financial challenges for years. This is a community hospital CEO, Troy Bruntz, said in a statement. And unfortunately, this looks to be the first of many. It is estimated that over 190 rural hospitals and clinics are in immediate danger, if this bill passes, of not being able to keep their doors open.
I'm not going to touch Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. None of that stuff is going to be touched.
Nothing.
I want you to have to. Here's what I want on Medicaid. We're not touching anything. We're not going to touch it.
And I'm not going to cut Medicare or Medicaid.
Save Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security without cuts. They're going to destroy our health care, but I'm going to save it all, and I'm going to save our country. That's what we're going to do.
What happens if it comes to your desk, has the tax cuts, but also cuts to Medicaid? Would you veto that?
Well, we're not doing that.
Would you veto that?
All right, wait a minute. Did MAGA actually believe these words from the Orange Man? Did MAGA actually buy this, that he wasn't going to touch Medicaid, Medicare, he was going to save Medicaid? Of course, we all know that that was a lie. But the problem with MAGA is that MAGA is just a cult. You know, they just roll with whatever the Orange Man actually tells them. They never actually bother to do any kind of research in how the Orange Man's policies are going to affect their lives. You know, how do you vote against your best interest? Well, now you're getting what you voted for. Let's keep watching.
Now, it is important to point out that Nebraska is extremely red. I don't know if they realize, but when you have towns of only 1,000 people, you can't afford to have a fully functioning hospital without somebody subsidizing it for you. So, I hate to say this, but they voted for this.
Did you all hear about the hospital in Nebraska that is going to close down because of uncertainty about funding? This is honestly super concerning, especially because this small hospital is in a remote area, and for many folks, it's the only one that's accessible to them. And what we are seeing here is what many are expecting to be the first example of what the cuts to public funding are going to do to important services that people need. A lot of folks that are hearing about this, though, are not showing empathy because in many ways, Nebraska voted for this. And in that county specifically, they voted overwhelmingly for the person that is promoting the cuts that are happening right now. Unfortunately, this is another example of folks voting against their interests, folks that were expecting that their living conditions, their livelihood was going to improve, and the opposite is happening. And listen, y'all, I understand why a lot of folks don't have empathy, but I feel bad for these folks because the system that we're living in over and over again keeps hurting the folks that are the most marginalized. But those are my thoughts, familia.
Hey guys, I popped in for a minute today. I just wanted to pop in and wish a certain group of people a happy 4th of July. I'm specifically talking about Trump voters. I want to wish you a happy 4th of July. Did you know that that budget bill passed yesterday? And it's pretty soon, a lot of you Trump voters, you're not going to have a lot of things that you had it when 2025 started out. You're not going to have a lot of things that you had before you voted for Donald Trump on November 5th, 2024. Particularly one state that's being bitch slapped It's Nebraska. You know, it was announced right after Trump took office, and they canceled the subsidies to all those farmers in Nebraska, and they were all going belly up, and they were predicting that Nebraska would be bankrupt in 6 months. I'm talking to you guys specifically. There's another bit of news I want to share with you on this happy 4th of July day. I just heard word that one of y'all remaining hospitals has just announced that they're closing. Yeah, Nebraska, you're losing your hospitals too. See, after that bill was signed, and in that bill, everyone except for Trump voters know that they're cutting the Medicaid and Medicare. And with that being cut, that's going to cause a lot of hospitals to close. And yours in Nebraska has already announced that they're closing. Happy 4th of July. I hope those fireworks bust your ass right in the face. Because you deserve it. That's exactly what you deserve, because you bust the entire country in their face. So now, when your farmers are already belly up, you should be going bankrupt right about now. Maybe next month. Because 6 months from January, that's about July, August. Okay. So you should be going bankrupt pretty soon as well. And now they're closing your hospitals down. So, when y'all have these medical emergencies, you won't have a hospital to go to. Happy 4th of July again. I just want to keep reiterating this. And I want to keep focused on this. Because I really want you to see your handiwork at work. I want you to see your choicing skills and the ramifications from them. And also, get ready for any of you out there, Trump supporters, who Mima and Pawpaw are in medical assistance, senior citizen homes. Go and clean out that junk room in your house and put in hospital beds and bedpans, because you're going to have to bring all them old folks home. Because see that Medicaid that was in that bill yesterday that they signed, that y'all cheered, that's going to cut off support. Yeah, financial support to people who are living in those homes that y'all don't have to deal with. Well, get ready to start cleaning up piss, wiping ass, and making sure medications are given on time. And you know that Meatball and Pawpaw, who are probably really grumpy, maybe be dealing with Alzheimer's or having those, let's say, little nasty outbursts, be ready to endure that too. And don't go abusing them old people. Don't go abusing them old people because you're frustrated because you got to take care of your family now that you voted this shit in. And once more and again, happy 4th of July. And before I get out of here bringing all this great news to you of what your vote is bringing on to you, before I get out of here bringing you all this great news of what your vote has done to you, I just got one question. Nebraska! Your hospital is closing. Is it great again yet? Nebraska! You'll be going bankrupt pretty soon. Is it great again yet? Nebraska! Your farmers are losing their farms. Is this what you call great again? If it is, I'm glad you got it. Because it doesn't fit a better group of people than you. Happy 4th of July.
Alright guys, there you have it. Actually, this is really sad because this is not something to celebrate. We cannot celebrate people losing hospitals. We cannot celebrate people losing Medicaid, Medicare insurance, because we have senior people who actually are gonna be affected by this. We have children who are gonna be affected by this. We have ill people, sick people who cannot actually help themselves, who don't have the funds to actually help themselves in private hospitals that are going to be affected by this. So in that kind of matter, we as human beings, we do actually settle in one mindset of empathy and sympathy for the people who are going to be affected. But there is always a but. Of course, with MAGA you expect a but, because we don't actually agree with them looking for sympathy from the rest of America, like what they were doing with Nebraska farmers, asking the rest of America, does anybody care about Nebraska? Why would anybody care about Nebraska when Nebraska voted for the orange man, when Nebraska voted for the orange man's policy? Why would you actually care about people who actually voted to hurt other people, as long as it was going to affect them, and then later come about looking for sympathy when things actually start affecting their lives? So this is why the rest of America doesn't give about Nebraska. They don't care about you. They don't care about you because you never cared about them. You went ahead and voted for racism. You went ahead and voted for hatred. You wanted the orange man's policies to go ahead and affect other people, just except you. This is why they don't care about what you're going through. And now, newsflash, after being hit with bankruptcy in their farms, we all remember reports actually saying that the whole state of Nebraska was going bankrupt in just 6 months. Can you believe that? Now they're being hit with another wave of hospitals closing. Why? Because of slashes to public funding. Nearly $1 trillion has been slashed from, Medicaid, Medicare funding. This is really sad. This is really alarming. $1 trillion slashed in Medicare and Medicaid funding. Can you believe how many people are gonna be affected by that? Can you actually believe how many hospitals are going to be affected by that? And Nebraska is actually a big state with a small population, and people in rural Nebraska are being affected more because their hospitals cannot actually depend on themselves. They cannot actually be autonomous. They depend on public funding. They depend on Medicaid and Medicare funding. They depend on these supports coming from the federal government to be able actually to function and give people care and treatment. And a lot of them are ending up closing. Why? Because they cannot actually afford to continue operating. What do you think about that, guys? That is sad news for elderly people, sick people, mothers actually going to the delivery room, and children. But we say for them Nebraskans, MAGA Nebraskans who actually voted for the orange man, I hope you're learning your lesson, because now it's too late. You cannot take that one back. The only problem is that maybe later, after this presidency has changed and we are having finally a democratic government, it's gonna be hard to actually reverse this one big beautiful bill. And the problem is that you guys are gonna start blaming it on the Democrats. Let me know in the comments, guys, what do you think about today's episode? If you're new, kindly consider subscribing, hit that like button, keep the conversation going in the comments, and let's see you on the next episode. Peace out.